The town hall format continues to prove that it's a good format. I like the fact that it's not two politicians fighting against one another. They're two politicians who have the opportunity to really outline their policy ideas and get into the nitty-gritty, get into the details. I think that there were some weak moments for both candidates, to be completely honest with you guys. I think that Bernie Sanders continues to have a tough time answering questions about foreign policy. Hillary Clinton continues to have a tough time answering questions about campaign finance. Sure. She mentioned that she is no longer receiving money from some of these hedge funds, and then Jordan Sheridan, one of our reporters, did a good job at finding evidence that she is, in fact, still receiving money from those hedge funds. So I think that's her weakness for sure. With Bernie Sanders, I don't know why he feels uncomfortable being aggressive in criticizing our current foreign policy and its failures, but I feel like he wasn't aggressive enough in it. What do you guys think?
I think that he has to sort of tread a careful line of not being seen to criticize Obama too much, especially because he wants to, because Hillary's position is lining up with Obama on a number of different issues, including her approach largely to Syria, to Afghanistan, to Iraq. And so he wants to criticize that, but he doesn't want to be seen to be being unfair to her.
Right.
And I think that just largely, I don't think that he prioritizes it. I don't think that it's something that he cares all that much about.
He doesn't care about it, but he also needs to understand, well, I don't know if he cares about it or not. I'm sure he cares to some extent. But even if it's not his strength, even if it's not his number one issue, he needs to understand that should he get elected as the next president of the United States, he's going to inherit a complete disaster in the Middle East. Yeah. And he needs to be clearer and more aggressive in his messaging about what he would do with his foreign policy.
And really fast to follow up, I think, like I said earlier, I think that the answer is that the policies that are being proposed by Hillary Clinton, and honestly, like when I hear her talk about Syria, and when I hear Jeb Bush talk about Syria, and when I hear Chris Christie talk about Syria, maybe they swear more on the right, but their policies are very similar, including the no-fly zone. I think that you need to be able to say that having the same basic strategy for a decade and a half hasn't been working, and we have no reason to believe it will work. But right now, you apparently can't convince the American people of that. They haven't learned it, and they don't want to learn it. And also, they are more afraid of international terrorism than they should be, statistically. But no one is ready to hear that or wants to hear that.
Right.
And so he knows some things, or I think he should know some things, that there is no point in saying because people refuse to accept them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a way to relay that message in an effective way that resonates with the American people. I think that especially for younger voters who have been criticizing what's happening in the Middle East, it's going to resonate with them. You know, the criticism will work. I know he's fighting against the establishment media that continues fear-mongering about the Middle East. I know he has to fight back.
People don't say establishment.
Right, that's true. Only people behind desks
I lost
say
you for a
establishment.
second there,
yeah, exactly. But I don't know, maybe there's more disagreement. What do you guys think?
I think that, well, first of all, I'll get into that in a sec, or if we want to. I think that I think she's better at this a little bit, this format. I think she's exceptionally good at it.
Yeah, she's really good.
And he's Bernie. My hunch is nothing really changes here.
I don't think so.
And I think this is really informative, and this is a nice way to look at things, and you realize that we have two people who are so much more dramatically qualified to be president of the United States than anybody on the other side. But I don't think it changes the dynamic very much, and I don't think it's very good television. The fact is, it's okay to have a debate, and now that there are only two of them, that would probably be pretty interesting. And they're
we have to wait until tomorrow.
I have a quote here that I just read today. I've never heard this quote before, and it's one of my favorite quotes of all time now, and it's from Barney Frank responding to criticism of politicians. And he said, and I love this, and I want to quote it every time I'm sitting behind this desk for the rest of my life.
You keep that note in your
get
pocket?
Prepared.
That's one pocket, not the other one.
People talk about how horrible politicians are. Sometimes the electorate is no prize either.
Okay.
He's right.
Do you say that at a rally?
He's right.
Or?
He's right. And I mean, we sit here and we criticize politicians, and the criticisms of Hillary are meaningful and accurate, and she would be much closer to the status quo. Well, she would represent an election of someone much closer to the status quo. I'm not convinced that we don't. In fact, none of us know what would happen if Bernie Sanders was president. Status quo might completely take hold. We might literally get nothing done. There's an argument to be made there. I sort of doubt that, but we don't know, right?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, politicians are not that far from a accurate representation of who we are. And we are sometimes crass and selfish and hollow and mean-spirited and incredibly poorly educated about things that we ought to be educated about. And we see it in every election. We see it demonstrably on the Republican side frequently. I don't know how there are obviously millions and millions of smart Republicans. I don't know how they have conversations with their fellow people in their party. I don't know how they don't bang their head against the wall.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: the number of dumb people on our side is staggering to me. And so, so to me, some of the criticism of Hillary is a reflection of her obvious and dramatic lack of purity on issues which are important to us, and they are dramatic. I don't care as much as you guys about that, because I care what I see in her is a remarkable ability to fight, a remarkable ability to withstand and win those fights, no interest in the thing that's flummoxed us for 5 years from President Obama, which is some effort to leave a legacy that said, I made a big deal with the other side. I don't think she cares about compromising. I don't think it at all. She's not interested. Now,
I disagree. I mean, part of that debate was focused on how she conceded and decided to vote in favor of inviting Iraq, right?
That one's
I don't see her.
problem.
Yeah, and I don't see her as a fighter when she wasn't championing gay rights when it wasn't convenient for her.
Okay, let me take that
right?
one on. I can take that one on much easier. First of all, I end up being the Hillary defender. I'm going to vote for Bernie Sanders. I hope Bernie Sanders wins. But I hope we win, whoever that candidate is. But on both, and this answer applies to Iraq and to gay rights. There was never any question where the Clintons stood on gay rights. Now, the Defense of Marriage Act passed with veto-proof majorities in both houses. That was a different time. The political climate matters. There's no Democrat who's going to run for significant office in this country who's against gay rights now. None. She's not going back. You're right. She wasn't on the right side then. But the fact of the matter is, Bernie Sanders, he voted for the Defense of Marriage Act, didn't he?
I don't know.
You know what? I have no idea. I'm confusing it with something else. I have no idea. But the political climate was 100 times. I mean, we all saw a change that we didn't even think could come rapidly from the 1990s until 2012, dramatically. And the fact of the matter is, Bill Clinton, who signed that act, 2 of his judges and 2 of Obama's judges were 4 of the 5 judges who reversed it, right? They put those guys on the court. So much more meaningful than the coy way that both Obama and the Clintons sort of managed gay rights when they were probably for gay rights, but simply couldn't politically say it.
Yeah.
The climate has also changed on the Iraq War, thanks to Bernie Sanders, thanks to a progressive movement that he was a part of and is now leading. The political climate has changed so dramatically that I don't think Hillary Clinton would make that vote on Iraq, because I don't think she hardly was the only one. I don't think most Democrats would make that vote on Iraq now. It's a different place than we were in 2003, when literally at that time, if you spoke out against it, you were un-American, you were unpatriotic. That was a hideous, awful time. I have said on this show, I think more than anything else, and I repeat myself a lot, that she was the most important Democrat in the country. Didn't matter who was going to be the nominee for president. Didn't matter whether it was going to be John Kerry. Hillary Clinton, what she did matters. She calls a press conference, everybody goes. Everybody covers it. It's the top of the news. And if she'd taken a stand against the Iraq War, it would have been big news. So when your most important leader acquiesces because it's not politically convenient, that's a terrible time for her. So I can't, that one's tougher to get around. But I think the climate is completely different now, and I think it's not going back. And Bernie Sanders deserves credit for that. So that is the prism with which I look at much of what I think she would do.